What I want to teach today is teach people a very practical, easy way to get your whole mind involved in processing when you go to sleep.
This is Keith Krance, and I have Eric Thornton on with me again today. Super excited to talk about PTSD, stress, and managing stress, and how we can actually manage some of the stress that is happening to people and they don't even realize it, and it's going to continue. We're going to actually, I think you're going to give an exercise that you can do basically.
Right.
First of all, I mentioned PTSD. So what is PTSD?
So on my website, in the newsletters, if you go to that, ericthornton.com, you'll see an article called Energetic PTSD. In that article, I'm quoting government websites and as well as the American Psychiatric Association, I believe. So first of all, PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. If you look at the government website on that, the way it forms is by a sudden trauma or a large trauma, like a car accident, or the government website would, acts of war, things like that. So if you're driving along the road in a Humvee and it gets blown up, that's going to give you PTSD. But if you're also out on the battlefield all the time having stress, you're going to get PTSD in a post-traumatic stress disorder from going to battle all the time. Well, there's a third in there, a third definition of how to get PTSD, and that is prolonged stress. And prolonged stress is what the American Psychiatric Association is warning psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, and counselors like myself is coming up between 6 and 9 months after the COVID ends and the current political environment change. Because what happens to our brain during this stress is we don't have answers. We feel unsafe. When we feel unsafe, our brain is consciously trying to answer the problem. That is called two-dimensional thinking. Fight or flight is one-dimensional thinking, where something's coming after you and you move into safety. That's one-dimensional thinking. We're all stuck in two-dimensional thinking right now. And it keeps you locked and very susceptible to trying to find the answer, so that you keep going to the news, you keep listening to the rhetoric, you fall for the propaganda, you fall for on Facebook, you fall for the Russian, I guess, is putting ads out on Facebook, things like that. I don't know what's going on there, but it's like you're not able to think clearly because you're in one and two-dimensional thinking, which the American Psychiatric Association says that's about 5% of your brain's power. Where if you pull in your imagination, subconscious imagination, all of a sudden your brain is now using 95% of its power. So, and that helps you solve the problems of life, or make it in your head so you can make a decision, like with the news. Okay, there's all this controversy going on. So, and we don't know what news is real and what isn't. What I used to trust, I'm told not to trust. But how do I find out what's real and what's not? And we can't, generally speaking. But you really can. You can turn the news off. And you can go through with your phones and things like that, titles from different news agencies, and read bits of each one of them, and you find out generally what's going on. That still doesn't help us unwind, though. And that's what this podcast is about. What I want to teach today is teach people a very practical, easy way to get your whole mind involved in processing when you go to sleep, so that you don't remain in first or second thinking when you wake up exhausted. We want you to be able to go to sleep, wake up refreshed, because your brain is processed all night long. And we do that by creating three-dimensional thinking. If you want to read about 1, 2, and 3-dimensional thinking, There's a whole series of called Neurosculpting by Lisa Wiesberger, and she talks about 1, 2, and 3-dimensional thinking. Anyway, so to start off with, we've explained 1 and 2 and 3-dimensional thinking. So now we want to explain how our body is absorbing what the stressors from the matrix, if you will, from the news, from the hearsay, from all the different conspiracy theories, et cetera, et cetera. And we absorb this information through what I have been given the word from my guides called the points of pathos. If you put that into English, it's the points of pathology. And these are the points that pick up to our digestive nervous system. We have, our digestive brain material, which is nervous system. That digestive brain material can be looked up online. They've been doing huge studies on it in the United Kingdom. And it's literally brain material from the tip of your tongue all the way out the back door. And you can tell people's personality by what type of material is there. That absorbs information through the sense of touch. It doesn't have eyesight with it. It doesn't have hearing with it. It's the thing that tells you feel unsafe right now. It tells your amygdala how to respond. And then your amygdala tells your brainstem in 30 millionths of a second to go into fight or flight. So this is a very real perception area. They are these points of pathos. If everybody knows what their scapulas are, they're also called, some people call them the wing bones. And if
back here, yeah.
Right, back. They're points, if you arch forward, they poke out in your back. Those are called the scapulas. When your arms are at rest at your side, the scapula bone comes down, and it's about an inch from the point. The farthest down point is about an inch from your spinal cord on both sides. And right at that point, touching the scapula and going almost to touching the spinal cord, and Keith, you can feel this. Do it while we're doing this. And just feel those points. Observe it. It's something nobody's ever done. They don't even know they're there.
So it's about, you say when you're relaxed?
When your arms are at your side,
okay,
at the bottoms of the scapula, they kind of come down to a point like this. And right on the inside, spinal cord side, on both, are these little round points, about an inch across,
okay,
that are called the points of pathos. And if you pay attention to them, you'll be able to describe some sort of feeling there. So what do you feel there?
I don't know.
I'm kind of putting you on the spot, sorry. But is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it soft and chewy? Is it gummy? Is it stiff? Is it tender? These are the type of adjectives I'm looking for.
But if you're to the touch, or if you're just relaxed, because it's hard
just
to touch.
Relaxed.
You gotta reach around. So
you can't. A lot of people can't reach it. Well, right. They can, sort of.
Then you can't relax.
Right, you can't relax to it. To just put your brain there and feel these points.
I'm not usually very good at that.
So that could be. But what most people will feel is they'll feel they'll use descriptions that there's currently some sort of irritation there, if they actually think about it. And and I'm not telling you to think there's irritation there. I also get descriptions like the skin is tender, or the muscle is tender underneath it, or it just feels like it's stiff right there on both sides. Sometimes one side's more intense than the other. Sometimes people feel they're swollen a little. And each individual's perception is different. That's why I ask people to see what they can come up with. And so anyway, these points of pathology are where we pick up the information, where we pick up the stress from other people.
Okay.
And so we're picking up on the pathologies of other people. That's why they named them the points of pathos. These can exhaust you if you're a healer, if you're a guru, if you're empathic. They can really exhaust you because they absorb, right? They absorb so much. And some people, different people have different nerves, but feel different things. So I tell people to just concentrate on the spots. You don't have to feel anything in the immediate. You don't have to feel anything ever. But eventually, you're probably going to feel something there. So, and telling you to observe it right now, Keith, I know you are doing a show here, but there's going to be a change in them. And so you might be able to feel the change as we go through this, okay? So these points of pathos look like, basically look like an animal's eye that is no white in it, but maybe it's bright blue, and there's no pupils. And we want to be able to shut them off like an eyelid coming down over the top of those. So you have these 2 points, and you open, they automatically open. They're like a doll's eyes with the eyes that, open and shut, and they automatically stay open because we need them for safety. We need them to know how far the lion is behind us before it's going to attack us, before it's going to jump on us. We need it to know that there's a burglar or someone following us. So they're open automatically. But when we get in these high tense stress environments, this automatically being open is also sucking in everybody's fears, everybody's concerns, and it overwhelms the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, getting us stuck in 1 and 2 dimensional thinking. So we first want to learn to close those off. Then we want to learn what to do to activate our own brain to help us relax through the day, but mainly this is done right before you go to sleep. So I want you to, in your mind's eye, we want you to imagine yourself at a location, at a river, on a river bank. And let's say you're staring at the river in front of you, and off to the left, you see maybe 100 feet, you see this water literally bubbling out of the ground. This is a large artesian well that's just bubbling and forming the beginnings of a river. It's absolutely pure water from Mother Earth, from Gaia. There's no fish, there's no bugs, there's no algae, the rocks are not slick, this is a private location, nobody's there except you. And the water temperature is like 98 degrees. It's just the perfect temperature to put your feet in, to relax, and to unwind. So, and in front of you is this big rock. And you walk out onto the rock, and you take off your shoes and socks, and you put your feet in the water. And you just feel the water going past your feet. Just feel it. It's not warm, it's not cold, but you feel the movement. And you feel how fresh and clean it is. You can smell the effervescence of this artesian water. And it has a minerally sweet smell that is just, it's one of the most fabulous smells that humans ever experience. It's like a fresh rain after, a good hard rain after about an hour. You walk outside and the atmosphere just smells clean. So you're sitting there with your feet in the water, and I want you to pull in energy from God, your definition of God. And it can be any. And it comes down through your head, and it pushes out your body, pushes through your body, and it pushes out your feet, this tension that's held in your cells of your body. and just put it forward. There's no requirements here. Just put it forward. But if you feel yourself doing this, you feel the movement through you, or you might not feel it through you, but you might feel a weightiness in your feet. And that means it's working. You're starting to push energy out that you no longer need. Okay? And Mother Earth through this water is pulling it out of your feet. It's actually pulling it. The water is so pure. It's actually pulling impurities out of you, as well as the energy of stressors in your life. Okay? So you're sitting there enjoying it. The sun's perfect. The weather's perfect. There's no animals around you. There's no bugs. You got this perfect water. And you're sitting there enjoying it. And then you kind of notice across the stream a little geyser. And that geyser is shooting up some of this water from the same source. And it's this beautiful fine mist. And it's like you see that and you just have to go over there and you have to stand in it. And so you get up and there's a few rocks, but they're not slippery. And you work your way across, and maybe you're in a swimming suit or lack thereof. It's your own private place. So it's only you in your imagination. And you just start feeling this spray that's 98 degrees hitting your body and just coating it and dripping it. And you can look at your body and you see the droplets glistening with the sun. And the droplets are pulling in the sun's energy. And it's energizing and stimulating your whole system. So what's happening to you at this moment is you're starting to have a hormonal reaction, and you're getting serotonin and oxytocin and some other hormones as well. So you're activating your positive hormone release, no anxiety. And you're standing in the artesian. You look back and you go, okay, I'm going to go sit down and I'm going to lay in the sun and keep my feet in the water. And you still feel, you walk across and you still feel the water pulling energy from you as you let the sun, the energy from the universe, from God, come through your body. Okay, so I want you to, now that you've done this for a few minutes, I want you to feel those points of pathos again. And I want you to tell me, or tell yourself, what is changed. What it does is it starts to pull in the hormones. You create hormones in a 17th of a second. You start getting the feel-good hormones, but also with the points of pathos. So I want you to feel it like you're doing. Now I want you to actually close those now, okay, very much on purpose, and sit with it just for a few seconds. And then imagine yourself back in that spot and sitting next to the water again and walking over to the geyser, feeling that, and coming back and sitting and enjoying the sun. And feel those points of pathos again. And then opening the points of pathos and then closing them. And then opening them again and then closing them again. What people eventually can do is feel what I'm talking about. And these little spots on your traps, they start to relax. By opening and closing them and visiting this place, they start to relax. And eventually, what you want to do, you start to do this practice, is you do that while you're lying in bed.
I feel like an animal, kind of where I'm like opening and closing.
Right. Now, there is a process here which helps people feel the points of pathos. It is called natural breathing.
Okay.
Natural breathing is when your back ribs and your front ribs bellow like this. We all breathe. We get in the habit of our front ribs.
That's how I felt when I was just doing that a second ago. Big time.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. That's what I was like, whoa, I feel like
Uh-huh.
every breath I take, my back is like, I felt like an amphibious animal or something.
Right. It starts to get the
It's
back
like
ribs to
breathing through my
activate.
eyes.
Right. It gets them to start to activate. That's why I said this is a process. In order to speed up the process, we do what's called back breathing.
Okay.
We can do that with a witness, it's called, and or a wall as a witness, or a cloth tape measure as a witness. But if you stand up against the wall and you just try to expand the ribs in your back, okay? Just breathe.
Okay.
And you feel your front ribs expand and your belly expand. Now we want you to expand, feel the wall, or feel the pillar in your case, the bookcase. And now we want your body to push your body out away from the rib cage when you, or away from the wall when you're standing there. And the wall is your witness. It's allowing you to feel yourself push away from the witness. And it's very uncomfortable to learn to do this again, but it is natural to do it. The reason I mentioned a cloth tape measure is because if you put that tape measure right below your breasts, the male or female, and you bring that around, you bring it around from the back, and you just breathe, it may say 32 inches, say, or 38 inches. And you just breathe, it'll expand a half an inch. So you pull it tight, you breathe, it expands a half an inch. When you get good at that, back breathing, that will expand 3 inches.
What?
I'm not joking. It will really expand that 3 inches. So this, with that points of pathos, that's when you really start feeling those points of pathos. Because what's happened currently to most everybody is your back has literally become immune to the sensations that it is gathering. It's become immune to feeling the breathing. It's immune to feeling someone, the points of pathology. You'll find a lot of complaints from chiropractors that people can't even feel where they have subluxations anymore because they've moved away from it so far emotionally, so they don't feel the nerves. This engages those nerves again. When you get the proper bellowing, you're actually relaxing the whole trapezoid and all the layers of muscles under the trapezoid. And you start to feel these points of pathos relaxing. And those points of pathos go all the way through the heart chakra out to the front.
Okay.
And these start to relax. And you're thinking about it and you have no idea what it is. So what's happened is you've involved your imagination. This whole exercise, and most of the exercises we give people, get people to use their own brain and their own imagination. When you take a problem, an event, a series of events, consciously or subconsciously, and you open up through using your imagination, the subconscious part, the right side of your brain, you open that up, suddenly your brain's thinking power goes from 5% of your brain's use to 95%. And you don't know this is happening because it is your subconscious mind. The human brain tosses things between the logic and the artistic side of our brain to get what we call thinking.
Yep.
Because it's looking at something from two different points of view. And it shoves it back and forth. Well, fight or flight, it's not doing that.
And there's been tons of studies back to like my world, which is marketing and videos and storytelling and stuff. And there's been tons of studies where I think actually one of my favorite books is called Made to Stick. Mm-hmm. And And it's a lot of the most viral videos are based on a lot of the stuff from this book. And they've done studies where people, as soon as they, like when they're storytelling in any kind of presentation or video, they did a college, like this whole test or this university, and in the speech class, and the kids that used stories, didn't matter how good of a presenter they were, even if they had poor English and they were from another country, people remembered their talk, the more points from their talk if they told a story. So storytelling, we all know, right? That's how you get people to remember your points, is by telling stories, because you're involving their imagination. They remember more, but it also, because one of the main reasons why is because it goes into your subconscious mind, right?
Goes into the artistic side. Because
side.
you don't know what it is. So you're imagining it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that person speaks to me because they're telling you a story, and your imagination is finding simile to it. And that speaker is just speaking to me. It's like he's speaking directly to me, because they've involved your subconscious artistic side of your brain. So in this process of what I've just told, had you demonstrate, in the sitting down, being in the water, being in this perfect location, etc., right before you go to bed, your bed is acting as your wall. It's your witness. You do the deep breathing. You feel the points of pathology. You close them down. You step through the steps with the water and the purity, and letting energy from the sun flow through you, down and out your feet. You walk over, you feel the stimulation, and it's very sensual. It's supposed to be that way. It's very sensitive to your whole body. And you let yourself drift into sleep while you're doing that. And what you've done is you've gone to sleep with your imagination open. So all the problems of the day are now in the entire brain, so that when you sleep, your brain can process it without fear. So your brain processes it while you're sleeping in 3 dimensions instead of 2 dimensions. So you go into deeper sleep and even REM sleep more often, and you wake up in the morning refreshed.
Okay.
So that's the purpose of this. What this does then is your brain then is actually processing fully in the 3-dimensional thinking process. So it relieves the stress, the daily stress, and it solves it gives you answers to unanswerable problems, answers for yourself. And and that is very important for us, because that's what prevents PTSD. If you can break the onslaught from long-term stress, your brain won't build the PTSD.
Right.
And so in therapy with clients, psychologists or counselors such as myself, we teach people 3-dimensional thinking processes, so that they can teach their brain to do 3-dimensional thinking at any given moment, even in the middle of a riot. If you're stuck in the middle of a riot, you're going to get shot. For everyday use, we need to give our bodies a break. Instead of going to bed thinking about what's going to happen to our political system, are we going to get COVID-19? Are our friends going to get it? Are our parents? Instead of thinking about that, don't try to stop thinking about it. Just add what we've discussed.
Exactly. It's not like, that's the thing, is you don't have to feel guilty about, like, yeah, of course, don't get all distracted and watch the 3 hours of the news, but you don't have to feel guilty about it, because you can release that.
Exactly. So you're sitting there, you're lying there, you don't want to stop thinking about we lie there in bed sometimes, we got to stop our brain from thinking so much so we can go to sleep. Well, that's a form of torture.
That's how insomnia kicks in. Then people are like, well, I need sleeping pills. Just turn a boring audible book on. The kid will fall right back asleep.
Well, and what is a boring audiobook?
It's an exercise like this.
The kid's imagination.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And it's same thing works for adults. This is just a way to do it without the audiobook. And you don't want to shut off your brain when you go to sleep. Our brains are actually supposed to speed up when we go to sleep. And they speed up so fast and that we don't understand it. And the subconscious mind views things symbolically. So our dreams are very symbolic, the ones we remember. And so we want to encourage both of these to happen so that your brain fully recuperates at night, leaving the PTSD build up behind. You wake up in the morning and you feel better. And every time you do that, you're going to be feeling these points of pathology or points of pathos more and more. And you're going to start wanting to shut them down when you're listening to the news. You're going to want to start shutting them down when you're in a conversation with someone about political or health things.
Or what if you're a speaker and you're doing, some people a lot of times will talk about, you do a speech in front of 500 people and that can drain your energy because they're all kind of pulling from you.
Bombarding you.
Yeah, you could prevent some.
To keep you more into full thinking process. It's also to learn to use your points of pathos and to learn to bellow breathe and learn to expand your entire lung and get the muscles in your back to lose their atrophy. They actually have atrophy. That's why when you stood against that bookcase, you couldn't do it.
Right.
The brain doesn't know how to do it anymore. And you had to think about it. Okay, how do I get those to move? It is a natural process, so you're able to do it.
When I finally felt it, if I would have measured it, it probably would have only been like a half an inch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I recommend, my wife is a seamstress, so we have a lot of those around here. But I've actually practiced and gotten it up to 3.5 inches. And I'm only 5'6". Imagine a guy that's 6'4", how big he might be able to get 4.5 inch bellow out of it. And or someone that's 5 foot might be able to get a 2-inch bellow out of it. But you have to reactivate those muscles and and by doing that, you're actually bringing blood in and getting back pain to drop and exercising your lungs fully in case you do get COVID.
And then you're going to sleep better. You're going to wake up less stressed. You're also going to reduce cortisol because stress increases cortisol, which now then your body goes into fight or flight. So which means everything, other organs are starting to break down because it's in fight or flight mode. So now when this is all, so when you go out of that, then you have less cortisol, less stress, less cortisol. Guess what happens? Your immune system becomes stronger. You have more energy throughout the day, right? You don't get that afternoon lull because you're sleeping better. And then you're also more creative and you come up with an idea instead of.
And it's for everything. You're not just putting the political stuff in there. Your conscious mind is going over all your business stuff and everything. Right. Do the exercise and it'll all go in there.
Okay.
And and it's amazing over the weeks as you do this, how your brain starts wanting to do this. You start wanting to shoot it off to the moon and go sit in your lounge chair on this beautiful location and just take in the sensations of purity around you and let your body, your flesh renew and get the hormones from the imagination